As the movie begins, we are introduced to a group of 4 friends sitting in a restaurant. Among them are 3 boys and 1 girl. One of the boys, named Mike, excitedly brings up the topic of Halloween, suggesting they should have some fun by playing cruel tricks on others. Mike smirks and declares, "Like always, I'm going to bully Jacob. I'll make his life miserable." Jacob was an innocent and harmless boy, yet every year, Mike found amusement in tormenting him. Upon hearing this, their female friend immediately objects. She sternly tells them that such behavior is wrong. "Why do you pick on Jacob every year? What has he ever done to you?" she questions. Mike laughs and replies, "That's exactly the point. We tease him every year. It's a habit now. You don't understand how fun it is." She then turns to her best friend, who is also part of the group, pleading with him not to participate. But when Mike refuses to listen, she becomes frustrated and leaves. After finishing their meal, Mike and his friends head to the manager to pay the bill. The manager casually brings up the upcoming Halloween celebrations and asks them about their plans. Mike, with a mischievous grin, says, "We're going to torment a boy real bad. It's going to be so much fun." Intrigued, the manager expresses interest. "That sounds entertaining. I'd love to see how you do it," he says. At first, Mike declines, insisting that it's a private plan between him and his friends. However, after some persistence, he agrees to let the manager join them. Now, let's talk about Jacob. He was a mentally challenged boy who struggled to process things like others. He had a simple love, candies, especially corn candy, which he always carried in a small pumpkin basket. On Halloween night, Jacob was at a festival, not as a guest but as a worker. The festival owner had instructed him to work hard and not do anything that could bring embarrassment to the event. Just as the show was about to start, Jacob stepped outside, and there stood Mike and his friends, waiting for him. Without hesitation, they began to tease and harass him as they always did. But this time, Jacob had reached his limit. In frustration, he pushed Mike to defend himself. Mike, enraged by this, lashed out violently. His friends joined in, mercilessly beating Jacob. The assault continued until, tragically, Jacob took his last breath. Nearby, Mike's female friend had secretly witnessed everything. She was horrified. How could they take someone's life so cruelly? She stood frozen, unable to comprehend the brutality she had just seen. Meanwhile, Mike and his friends returned home, feeling no remorse. Instead, they justified their actions. "It was Jacob's fault," Mike reasoned. "Every year, he lets us bully him without resistance. But this time, he dared to push me? Of course, I got angry." Their cruelty knew no bounds. On the other hand, Mike's female friend was filled with guilt and sorrow for Jacob. Back at the festival, the owner was furious upon discovering Jacob's murder. "Who would do such a thing?" he shouted. "Jacob was a kind-hearted boy." And with that, the story takes a dark turn, one that may not end well for those responsible for Jacob's death. The festival owner gently lifts Jacob's lifeless body and carries him inside. With a solemn expression, he places a mask over Jacob's face and begins performing a mysterious ritual. As the ritual progresses, an unknown spirit enters Jacob's body. Suddenly, his wounds heal, and he comes back to life, driven by only one purpose: revenge. Meanwhile, Mike's female friend rushes to the town sheriff, her heart pounding with fear. She tells him everything: who killed Jacob and how they mercilessly ended his life. The sheriff listens carefully and responds, "I'll take note of it, but I haven't received any official report yet." However, when he later discovers that his own son was involved in the crime, he is in disbelief. "How can this be? I'm the sheriff. How could my own son do such a thing?" Determined to get answers, he heads straight to the festival owner and demands, "Where is Jacob? What exactly happened to him?" The festival owner, hiding the truth, calmly replies, "They were mistaken in thinking he was dead. He was injured, so I sent him home to rest." With this statement, Jacob's death is no longer official. The sheriff then visits Jacob's house and knocks on the door. When no one answers, he turns back, still filled with doubts. Meanwhile, Mike's female friend receives a visit from her best friend. He informs her, "The sheriff has been investigating. He found out that Jacob is still alive." Relieved, she sighs, "Thank God he's alive." On the other side of town, the restaurant manager, one of Jacob's killers, is boasting to someone. "This was the best Halloween ever. I had so much fun for the first time in my life," he says, grinning. After finishing his conversation, he heads to the restroom. Inside, he notices something unexpected: a small pumpkin basket filled with corn candy sitting on the counter. Smirking, he reaches out to grab a piece. But before he can eat it, Jacob appears. With terrifying strength, Jacob brutally attacks him, tearing open his stomach with his bare hands. The manager meets a gruesome fate, his screams echoing through the room. The first of Jacob's murderers has now paid the price. Shortly after, the sheriff arrives at the crime scene and begins his investigation. Corn candy is scattered everywhere. As he examines the clues, he realizes the shocking truth. The manager was one of the people who tortured Jacob. His suspicion grows. Could Jacob be behind these killings? At the same time, Mike's female friend, accompanied by her best friend, arrives at the scene. The sheriff shares his findings with them. Later, when Mike and his friends hear about the murder, they remain unconvinced. Jacob, a murderer? That's impossible, Mike scoffs. He was too weak to even fight back. If he had the guts, he would have saved himself that night. It's probably just someone else with a grudge against the manager. His friends nod in agreement. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But as they leave Mike's friend's house, an eerie sensation fills the air. One of Mike's friends senses something unusual. As he steps forward, his eyes land on a familiar sight, a pumpkin basket. He freezes in shock. "How did this get here?" he whispers. Before he can react, Jacob strikes from the shadows. In a brutal attack, he slams the boy against the wall and, with inhuman strength, rips out his spinal cord. Death is instant. Meanwhile, the sheriff's suspicion deepens. He is now almost certain that Jacob is behind the killings. He returns to the festival owner once more. "I already told you," the owner insists. "Jacob was injured. I sent him home to recover." Their conversation is interrupted when a police officer rushes in. "Sir, we have another report. One more of Mike's friends has been killed." When the sheriff arrives at the crime scene, he finds corn candy scattered around once again. This confirms his worst fear. His suspicions about Jacob were true. Determined to put an end to this, he heads straight to Jacob's house. But Jacob is nowhere to be found. As he searches the house, he looks under the bed and makes a horrifying discovery: an old, decayed corpse. It is the dead body of Jacob's mother. However, this body has no connection to the recent murders. Realizing the danger, the sheriff takes immediate action. He orders his son, Mike, to stay inside and not leave the house under any circumstances. "Your life is in danger," he warns. To prevent further chaos, the sheriff shuts down all festivals, carnivals, and events across the city, instructing everyone to remain indoors. However, this decision enrages the townspeople. Even the festival owner's staff turn against him, accusing him of hiding something. "You're responsible for this. How are we supposed to earn a living now?" they shout. Amidst the chaos, a man named Bishop secretly meets with the festival owner. "Are you sure you're doing the right thing?" Bishop asks. The owner smirks. "Absolutely." He continues, "People like us, the working class, are always the ones who suffer. Rich kids like Mike think they can torture us for fun. They've done it for years, and no one stops them. But this time, they went too far." He leans in. "Mike and his friends killed Jacob. I simply brought him back to take revenge." The truth stuns Bishop. Meanwhile, the festival staff overhears the conversation. But instead of turning against the owner, they stand by him. He's right, they think. Someone needs to take a stand against bullies like Mike. Elsewhere, Mike's female friend and her companion are together when she briefly steps inside a building. When she returns, she is horrified to find her friend's lifeless body. Confused and terrified, she doesn't understand what's happening until she feels a presence behind her. Jacob is there. Before she can scream, he grabs her and rips out her tongue. She dies in agony. At that moment, the sheriff arrives at the scene, hoping to check on them. But when he steps inside, he finds their corpses. It's too late. Realizing the full extent of the nightmare unfolding, he immediately calls Mike. "Listen to me. All your friends are dead. Do not leave the house. Jacob will come for you next." But Mike doesn't listen. Furious and determined, he storms out of his house and heads straight to the carnival to confront the festival owner. "What the hell is your problem?" he demands. Before he can get an answer, one of the owner's men knocks him unconscious. Meanwhile, the sheriff rushes home, only to find it empty. His heart pounds as he searches for Mike, but instead, he finds the festival owner waiting for him. The sheriff instantly draws his gun. "Where is my son?" he roars. Before he can react, Bishop sneaks up behind him and knocks him out cold. The owner walks up to the unconscious sheriff. Without hesitation, he takes a knife and decapitates him. The sheriff is dead. When Mike regains consciousness, he finds himself tied to a chair, completely alone. Panic sets in. He struggles, but it's useless. Then, he sees something in the distance. A car is approaching. It's his father's car. A wave of relief washes over him. Dad is here. He's come to save me. But as the car gets closer, he sees it. His father's severed head is mounted on the roof. Mike's heart sinks. Tears stream down his face. He realizes the truth. He's gone. They're all gone. There's no one left. Then, Jacob steps forward. With cold, unrelenting fury, he begins his final act of vengeance. First, he rips off Mike's arms. Then, he pulls out his teeth one by one. Mike dies slowly, painfully, just as Jacob had suffered. The scene shifts. We now see the festival owner, alive and well, running his festival in a different city. A girl stands in front of him, examining a peculiar necklace he hands her. The necklace is made from human teeth. These belong to Mike, the owner says with a smirk. The girl scoffs. I don't believe it. How could Jacob come back? How could he kill all those people? The owner grins. Some people take lives for no reason. But sometimes, the dead come back, to teach them a lesson. In the final shot, we see Jacob sitting inside his house. He wears his mask. He eats his favorite corn candy. And with that, the movie ends. Thank you for watching.